At my husband's funeral, my son Mark stood at the podium with trembling hands and thanked another woman. She was the one who was truly family to us, he said. All eyes in the room turned toward the woman in the front row, the one in the fitted navy dress, her eyes glistening with delicate tears. And me, the real wife, sat off to the side, invisible, when the lawyer later informed me that my husband had left everything to her. Not a single dime for me. Vanessa Lowell hugged my son and smiled, a small, satisfied smile that told me she had already won. But then I pulled out the second will, and suddenly, no one in the room was smiling anymore. I never thought my new life would begin at a funeral. Richard had died in a sudden car accident. Brakes failed, heavy rain, a curve, and then a crash into a market wall. Quick and clean, the doctor said. I wasn't sure he deserved such mercy. We'd been married 41 years. Our love wasn't passionate anymore, but I believed it was solid, something weathered but standing strong. I gave up my own career when he said, "I'll take care of you, Evelyn. You don't need to work." And I believed him, foolishly. At the memorial, I wore his favorite wool coat and greeted guests, keeping things neat and proper because even in death, Richard's image mattered more than truth. Mark, our only child, was giving the eulogy. He's 33, a calm, logical engineer. His voice was steady until it wasn't. "There's someone I want to give a special thank you to," he said, voice cracking slightly. My heart leapt. I thought, finally, he would say, "my mother." But the words that followed pierced me like glass. Someone who supported my father through the toughest time of his life, Miss Vanessa Lowell. A soft murmur swept through the crowd. Vanessa stood up, dabbed her eyes, and smiled modestly. I froze. Vanessa. I knew the name. Richard's assistant, then later, his consultant. I used to joke about how often her name appeared in his calendar. He'd just laugh. "Don't be paranoid, Eve." Now at his funeral, my son thanked her like family. The room spun. I barely felt my feet under me. That night I went home, still in the coat I wore to the memorial. The house was silent, his chair untouched, his scent still on the pillow. 41 years, and all I had left were ghosts and bills. The next day the lawyer read the will. The main residence, the Nantucket property, and all remaining accounts are to be inherited by Miss Vanessa Lowell. Not me. Not our son, her. Mark didn't even flinch. He already knew when I whispered, "You knew, didn't you?" He said softly, "Dad had his reasons." She understood him. "You didn't." That was the moment I realized I hadn't just lost my husband. I had lost my son, too. Later at home, I searched for the truth. Receipts, letters, anything. And I found it. Property documents, company transfers, emails. He had been funneling money to Vanessa for years. I went to our old neighbor, Mrs. Cooper, and she said something that made my blood run cold. "Oh, Vanessa!" She used to come over and help Richard hang Christmas lights when you were away. I thought she was a cousin or something. 15 years. 15 years of betrayal under my own roof. I found a photo in an old box. Richard and Vanessa at a company event, smiling like newlyweds. And in the background, Mark, barely 18, smiling too. On the back of the photo, in Vanessa's handwriting, "Our little family, soon official." That night, I didn't cry. I just stared into the dark until morning came. Then I decided, enough. I contacted my old colleague, Ruth Benson, and asked her to help me dig into Richard's financial records. Within days, she uncovered 3 suspicious transactions, over $350,000 paid to a shell company tied to Vanessa. Fraud. With that evidence, I hired a lawyer. Her name was Michelle Grant, sharp, calm, and relentless. Together we built the case. We took Vanessa to court. She claimed the money was for consulting. Fake invoices, fake signatures, but we had proof. We had dates, records, photos, and I had 41 years of silence that I was finally ready to break. When I stood on that witness stand, I didn't speak like a widow. I spoke like a woman reclaiming her name. The judge ruled in my favor. Vanessa was ordered to return every cent, over $1 million. She lost her home, her job, and her title, Justice. It didn't bring Richard back, and it didn't heal everything. Mark didn't speak to me for a long time, but years later, when my father passed, he showed up. At that funeral, he hugged me and said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I was defending an illusion." I smiled. "You were young, but now you see the truth." That evening, as the guests left, I walked into my garden, the one Richard never cared to maintain, and stood beneath the apple tree I planted 20 years ago. Last year it almost died. I thought about cutting it down, but this spring it bloomed brighter than ever. Maybe I did too. I took off my shoes, let the earth touch my feet, and smiled at the sunset. Because now I finally knew who I was. Not Richard's wife, not Mark's mother, just Evelyn Carter, a survivor who learned that even in betrayal, there's rebirth.